Have you ever had one of those days that feels so right, you almost get suspicious, like the universe is lining up for a prank? That was my Saturday. The kind of fall day where the leaves turn the world golden red, the breeze is just sharp enough to make you appreciate your old college sweatshirt, and even the birds seem to chirp in tune. I had my checklist clean. The gutters, mow the back lawn, maybe finally fix that squeaky gate. Just ordinary stuff, but the kind of routine that makes a guy feel like he's got life under control. I'm David Johnson, and if my wife Sarah was here, she'd tell you my only flaw is being particular. I won't deny it. If I'm up a ladder, it's going to be level, my gloves thick. The tarp stretched out so gutter sludge never hits my precious grass. I'd barely made it halfway down the right side of our house, an old two-story colonial on Abernathy Drive, when that feeling crept up my spine. You know, the one where you can tell you're being watched and not in the friendly neighbor way. I didn't need to look down. I knew who it was. Carol Peterson. She lives 2 houses over in a saltbox-style fortress so pristine it looks like it holds its breath. Carol is the kind of person who could walk into a garden and only see weeds. Retired, but with a full-time hobby upholding neighborhood standards which change depending on her mood and caffeine intake. Her hair is a blonde helmet, her blazer pressed, and her entire posture just screaming for a clipboard. I kept working, refusing to give her the satisfaction of eye contact. Eventually, she just couldn't resist marching across her own immaculate lawn onto the sidewalk and shockingly straight onto mine. She stopped at the edge of my tarp, arms crossed so hard her purse nearly popped. Afternoon. Carol, I called, keeping my tone as friendly as I could. Beautiful day, huh? She didn't answer. She scanned my sweatshirt, my ladder, the bucket of gunk wrinkling her nose like I was dumpster diving. "What do you think you're doing?" she barked. Not, "Hey, how's it going?" Just straight to accusations. "Cleaning my gutters," I replied, slow and clear, like you'd talk to a dog that's chewing your shoe. She scoffed. "Your gutters, huh? Is that what you're calling it?" I could see where this was headed. Now, I'm a patient man. 25 years on the Raleigh police force, most of them as a detective. You learn to let people talk, spin out their crazy, and only speak when it counts. She kept going louder and shriller. "People like you case neighborhoods, pretend to do work. You're mapping out which houses to rob, aren't you?" It was so absurd I almost laughed, almost. But I knew the real reason for her suspicion had nothing to do with ladders or gutters. It was about me being a 6'2" black man in her neighborhood. "Carol, this is my house. We've lived here 2 years. You know who I am." She stepped closer, her face going blotchy red. "People can lie. Documents can be forged. I have a responsibility to protect my neighbors." She actually whipped out her phone like a sheriff in an old western, jabbing at the screen before putting it to her ear. "Yes, I need to report a break-in. There's a large aggressive man trying to get into a second-story window at 412 Abernathy Drive." I felt a grin spread over my face because here's what she didn't know. 412 Abernathy Drive is my address, and the 911 dispatcher on the other end was my wife Sarah. She was about to have the most entertaining shift of her month. Sirens started up in the distance, and honestly at that point I figured, why not let this play out? When you've lived through enough nonsense, sometimes you just sit back and watch the show. The police showed up fast, flashing lights, tires squealing, blocking half the street like it was a movie set. Carol puffed up, ready to be the star. Out steps Officer Mike Romano, a big guy built like a fridge, and a friend I trained back in the day. His partner Rob followed, sharp, dry-witted, younger, but already wise to neighborhood drama. Mike took one look, squinted up at me, and grinned. "David, what on earth are you doing up there? Thought you retired." I started down the ladder. "Trying to save a few bucks. Mike, Sarah wants a new patio set. You know how it is." Rob clapped me on the back. "Didn't know you were still climbing ladders at your age. You trying to give Sarah a heart attack?" Carol's face was a glitching computer mouth, opening and closing, not computing. She finally sputtered. "Do you know this man?" Mike got official. "Ma'am, this is Detective Johnson, retired. His house, his ladder." Carol went pale, then red again. "You're all in on it." She pointed, shouting, "This is a conspiracy. I demand to speak to your supervisor." Mike sighed. "Ma'am, my supervisor is Lieutenant Miller, Dave's old partner. Want me to call him so he can say hi?" Then came the real twist. "You called 911, right?" I said. She nodded, lip curling. That was my wife Sarah, the dispatcher. You could see the gears grind to a halt in her head. All her years of being the block's boss undone in one humiliating afternoon. She shrieked, "You people always stick together," not even bothering to keep it subtle. Mike and Rob exchanged the look. We're dealing with a crazy... She stormed off shrieking about files, documenting everything, swearing the neighborhood would not be intimidated. The cruiser pulled away, lights off, quiet, settling back over Abernathy. I caught Carol glaring at me from her window, already scribbling notes for her next imaginary file. That night, Sarah was chopping carrots a little too hard. She called you people, she muttered. I heard it on playback. She'll escalate David. This isn't the last time. She was right. This wasn't just a cranky neighbor. Carol was dangerous, someone whose paranoia had real consequences. But here's the thing, when someone's whole power comes from pretending to be the rule maker, what happens when you actually read the rules? That was the twist even I didn't see coming. The next week I made the Abernathy HOA bylaws, my Bible highlighting tagging, walking the neighborhood with new eyes. I saw everything, fences too high, non-standard mailboxes, a windmill or two, but nothing that interested me until I spotted it. Carol's perfect vinyl fence, 2 feet over the property line right onto HOA common ground, and hidden behind her holly bush. An old satellite dish big enough to pick up Russian news unapproved and exactly where it wasn't supposed to be. All those years of complaints about trash cans and porch lights, and she was a serial violator herself. I built my case maps, photos, a letter to the HOA board, so dry and factual it could have been read at a Supreme Court hearing. I didn't hide my name. I wanted her to know her actions had consequences. When the notice finally landed in her mailbox, the explosion was glorious. She stood in her yard screaming at the sky, crumpled paper in hand. How dare he? How dare they? The neighbors gathered like it was the 4th of July. She stormed onto my property, ranting about peeping toms and illegal photos. I kept calm. Everything from the street, Carol. Just like you've been doing for years. A hush fell when she spat out, "You people always try to take over." She'd said the quiet part out loud and everyone heard it. The real showdown was at the next HOA meeting, standing room only for the first time ever. Carol made her case, years of service, the welcoming committee. Her fence was improving the neighborhood. I stood folder in hand and said, "It's not personal. It's just about the rules." Neighbors, one by one, spoke up about her mean notes, her fake rules, her bullying. By the time the board voted, it was unanimous. She had 30 days to fix everything or pay daily fines. And just like that, Carol's power vanished. She ghosted. No more patrols, no more notes. Workmen came, moved her fence, took down the dish. A few months later, a for sale sign went up. The new family moved in, 2 kids, chalk on the sidewalk, laughter in the air. Tom, the dad, nearly fell off his own roof, and I handed him my ladder. "Welcome to the neighborhood, Tom. It's a pretty good place to live." But that wasn't the end. Turns out Carol's last act was her worst. She'd painted over a huge basement crack to hide flooding, lied on the disclosure, and nearly bankrupted Tom and Lisa with a ruined foundation. But I still had some detective in me. I found the contractor who gave her a $25,000 repair quote. She'd refused proof she knew and covered it up. Tom's lawyer got every cent back. The real rules in life aren't always written down, but they're simple. Take care of your own call-out bullies. And don't mistake pettiness for power. Carol lost everything trying to police a neighborhood. The only thing left at the end was her own ugliness exposed for all to see. So tell me, have you ever dealt with a neighbor who crossed the line? Did you fight fire with fire, or did you go by the book? Drop your stories down below, because every neighborhood has a Carol, but every community has people who stand up and say, "Not here."